Modern historical scholarship faces a direct foundational conflict: the transformation of a first-century Galilean into a divine icon. The Christ of faith represents the dogmatic reality studied by the Church and preserved for centuries in formal iconography. Distinct from this theological portrait is the historical Jesus, the empirical, political reality reconstructed by secular historians and archaeologists. To find that historical figure, scholars face a core paradox. They are forced to rely almost entirely on the Gospels, documents explicitly written to promote the theological figure. Early Christian scribes were not attempting to write objective chronological history. They were composing pastoral documents designed to strengthen the beliefs of their early communities. This reality forces extreme reactions. Religious dogmatists treat every word of the text as literal historical fact, while mythicists argue the founder never existed. Professional historians reject both extremes. Historically, they have used a set of rules called the criteria of authenticity to act as a sieve, attempting to separate historical fact from theology. But modern scholarship is hitting a wall. Leading researchers have identified structural flaws in these traditional criteria, leading the field into a methodological impasse. The collapse of these old methods is forcing a shift. Historians are moving away from textual atomization toward a synthesis of social memory theory and archaeology to rescue the historical figure from both dogma and skepticism. For decades, the dominant method was form criticism. This meant breaking the Gospels into isolated sayings to find the exact original words. The primary tool, the criterion of dissimilarity, rejects any saying unless it's distinct from both first-century Judaism and early Christian teachings. By demanding the subject be disconnected from his own culture and his own followers, the criterion dehistoricizes him. It produces an isolated figure that could not have actually functioned in first-century Galilee. Another tool is the criterion of multiple attestation, which assumes a story is true if it appears in multiple independent sources. However, a story might be widely repeated simply because it was popular or theologically useful, rather than historically accurate. Then there is the criterion of embarrassment. The logic assumes early Christians wouldn't invent material that made them look bad, like Jesus being baptized, placing him in a subordinate position to John the Baptist. But sensitivities varied among early communities. What was embarrassing to one scribe could be an essential piece of theology to another. These criteria often function as screwdrivers, tools used to tighten a historian's preconceived conclusion, rather than acting as objective filters. Because atomizing the text yields subjective results, historians cannot rely on the Gospels alone. They must anchor the narrative using external, non-Christian data points. Stepping outside the Christian texts, we find non-Christian sources in Rome, Jerusalem, and Caesarea that independently verify the baseline narrative. Roman historians like Tacitus and Suetonius provide accounts. Their hostile bias against Christians validates their testimony. They had no reason to invent a founder for a movement they wanted to suppress. Tacitus confirms the historical parameters, the existence of the movement, and the execution of its founder under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. The Babylonian Talmud, a hostile Jewish text, confirms Jesus was a teacher with a persuasive delivery. While it attributes his healings to magic, it verifies his reputation as an exorcist. To validate these texts, historians require physical in situ archaeological evidence of the political structure they describe. This is the Pilate Stone, discovered in Caesarea Maritima. It is the physical archaeological proof of Pontius Pilate's administrative presence and authority in Judea. Physical artifacts like this dismantle the claim that the central political figures of the Gospels were entirely invented. These hostile texts and inscriptions form a historical perimeter that mythicists cannot dismiss and theologians cannot alter. Within that perimeter lies the ultimate historical claim of the texts, the crucifixion. We can verify this by looking at the biomechanical reality of Roman execution. Roman law required scourging before execution. They used the flagellum, a whip embedded with metal or bone, designed to induce severe tissue damage. Crucifixion was reserved for enemies of the Roman state and political dissidents, which aligns with the historical charge of sedition. Traditional artistic depictions show a serene body affixed through the palms, but archaeological reality reveals a much more violent method of skeletal attachment. This is the heel bone of Johannanin, a first-century crucifixion victim. It provides the precise method of skeletal anchoring used in antiquity. To support the weight of a human body, nails were driven through the solid bones of the wrists and the heel bones. This required a brutal twisting of the limbs against the wood. Standard practice involved victims carrying only the horizontal beam to the execution site, where permanent vertical beams were already stationed in the ground. The verifiable biomechanics of Roman execution anchor the end of the narrative in empirical history, bypassing theological embellishment. Returning to the Christian texts, historians are moving past the microscopic sieve. The current approach relies on social memory theory, which recognizes that human memory is reconstructive, rather than an exact reproductive recording. Over decades, oral traditions frequently lose microdetails. Specific word choices, locations, and precise chronologies fade. But while details shift, collective memory preserves the gist, the macro traits and impact of a historical figure. This produces recurring patterns. Even when individual verses fail the old criteria, a pattern emerges across independent sources. Jesus as an apocalyptic Jewish teacher, exorcist, and political dissident. Highly edited redactions in the Gospels, like the temptation narrative, continue to preserve these reliable historical macro traits. Modern historians overlay the established external anchors, Tacitus, the Pilate stone, and physical evidence of crucifixion, onto these recurring textual patterns to lock the model in place. The demise of the old criteria does not lead to skepticism. Synthesizing social memory, hard archaeology, and hostile texts reveals the historical Jesus as a defined, empirically accessible figure of antiquity.